Have you ever been catfished?
Oh, girl.
I'm laughing because I already know the answer to this question.
Well, yeah, that is one of the challenges of dating today, especially on dating apps.
Today, we're talking about, are dating apps worth it?
Let's talk about it.
Welcome to Net with Lizzy and Lissa, where we analyze hidden costs and empower you to make your own damn decisions in life. I'm laughing too much about this topic. Can't even do the intro. Each episode covers a different facet of life, and at the end of each episode, we each give our takes on whether we think something is net positive or net negative.
I'm Lizzy, a strategist and consultant with over 17 years of experience in finance and investing.
And I'm Lissa, a personal finance expert and an accredited financial counselor. We're best friends who talk about money.
And everything else.
Obviously, everything else. Are dating apps worth it?
First up, running the numbers on dating apps.
According to a survey from OnePoll and Forbes Health in 2023, 70% of respondents who met someone on a dating app said that it led to a romantic, exclusive relationship.
70%?
I know that feels high. Who are you
Wild.
guys? Who are you guys surveying?
They did not live in LA.
They did not survey me.
In another 2023 survey from Pew Research, it showed that nearly 3 in 10 U.S. adults have used a dating site or app, and more than 40% of respondents said that online dating has made dating easier for them.
I thought that was low, but then you have to think about like different generations probably have different,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Different usage.
That makes sense.
So that same survey showed that Tinder is the most used dating site or app in the United States. 46% of online dating users say that they have used Tinder, followed by about 3 in 10 who have used Match or Bumble at 28%.
Okay. Research from Morgan Stanley found that about 32% of single people in the U.S. use online dating services, and just a quarter of them pay. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
For those who spend on apps, they spend an average of $19 per month.
Yeah, there's a cost for you. Globally, it seems like everyone is looking for love. According to the Business of Apps, dating app revenue has increased every year for the past 8 years, with global revenue reaching $5.34 billion in 2023.
Damn.
Man.
I'm not surprised because it is like this cycle where you can't find it, so you gotta pay.
Go back.
You gotta keep going back.
It's not like a one and done for most people.
But we all know there's more to life than numbers. So let's talk about it.
Dating apps.
All right, let's just set the stage.
Yeah.
Obviously, Lissa is in a committed, loving relationship, getting married soon, so she is not actively on dating apps.
Nope.
But we got a long storied history with these apps, girl.
Yeah.
We go way back.
Because these apps really started getting more popular when we were in our prime, like 20s into our 30s.
Prime time.
Yeah. I mean, there was matchmaking stuff before that existed, but apps with the swipe right, swipe left stuff.
I feel like I first got on dating apps in maybe like 2016 is what I'm kind of thinking.
I felt like they were around a little earlier than that. Yeah, but you were in like relationships.
I was in relationships,
too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that's when I first dove into it.
Yeah.
And we had, a period of time we were both single and both trying to date.
Yeah.
Emphasis on trying.
Trying to date.
It's a wild ride.
Do you remember, what are all the apps that you've tried?
Okay. I have been on Tinder. I think it's so interesting that each of them have their own like brand, their own profile. So I was on Tinder, I think, before it became like just a hookup app. Yeah. I feel like.
Is that what it is now? I've been out the game.
I don't know. I've been out the game too.
Okay.
So Tinder, Bumble, The League.
Oh, I was on that one too.
There's one I think I'm forgetting.
Coffee Meets Bagel?
No, never did that.
Plenty of Fish?
Never did that. Hinge.
Facebook
Facebook dating.
They have Is that new or old?
That's new.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's new.
Okay.
That might be it. I feel like there's one more like niche-y one.
Yeah.
That was like kind of like the League. But yeah, that might be it.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
I think because I'm like even forgetting what I've blocked them out of my memory that I've forgotten the names of them. But some of the ones you said, I definitely use Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, the League. Yeah, I think for the most part,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, similar. Mm-hmm. Farmers only.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the interesting part is like over the years, how many have sprung out because the concept works, and then just like like specific audiences,
Yeah.
Christian mingle, like they have specific ones to that like by default already filter out people who don't fit that demographic.
Right, a certain subculture or demographic, yeah. And it's smart, right? If you're trying to meet someone like-minded that you could date or, build a life with or whatever, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the costs of dating apps.
Like, okay, financial costs, get that one out of the way.
Yeah.
Some of the apps, most apps are free, right? Or freemium model.
Yeah, most are freemium. So I was out the game for many, many years, probably 6 or 7 years total. And so coming back into it and just dipping my toe in, I feel like now the freemium apps, like the experience on the free version is very, very limited.
Okay.
Like it is a heavy push toward the paid kind of features, and it's so fascinating the way they do it. So for example, I'm currently on Hinge, and they will let you see everyone who's liked you if you pay. And it is this weird like dopamine response, or you only get a certain amount of likes per day.
Yeah.
And they like really prey on the appification, right? Like the desire to see more, and it's like the grayed out. From a user experience design perspective, it is expert. It is masterful. And then they have some other tier. I know, I think some of them have tiers where you can search outside of your geographic location for whatever reason, or if they're like going to go on a trip soon, or, there's like all kinds of things. But I think a lot of them revolve around how much access you get and like how much information you get about who's into you. Or you can make yourself like a spotlight essentially on you so that everyone sees your profile, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So freemium, basically on these dating apps, it's typically free is a very basic usage of it. And then the premium version that you have to pay for unlocks features. Like they keep creating these different features that'll help you out, with whatever your goals are.
Yep.
So I did pay back in the day for both Tinder and Bumble for, I think, different reasons-ish. I can't remember which one was which because it's all a blur to me now. But I remember that my reasoning for paying for these apps was I didn't think I was going to be in the dating pool for super long. I was going to just try it for a couple months, see how it went. If it didn't go well, I'm going to be single for the next year. I was just going to give it a little go. So I knew it wasn't going to cost that much all in. But for one of them, maybe it was Tinder, the premium allowed you to hide yourself from the general public so that, so basically, unless I liked someone, I wouldn't
see you.
Yeah, I would only be shown to people that I've already liked. So then that would weed out the people that would like me. Yeah, and then I wouldn't have to sift. It was something like that. And then I know on the other one, I paid for, I think it allowed you to filter by more things.
Yeah, that's a big component.
Yeah, because it's like on the regular version, you can filter by sexual orientation or like something
like
very
age,
basic.
Usually.
And age,
it's like very basic.
Age.
Yeah.
And then if you pay for more, you can filter out by I think it was like height and
height, for sure.
Yeah, or
that's one of the big ones.
I'm trying to think what the other categories were even.
So I just got back on an app this week and I paid. And part of the reason was for the filters. And this is on Hinge, you can filter by age. I think age and height actually are free.
Oh, okay.
But what they're interested in, and then like politics, religion, like any of those other kind of check boxes.
That's what it was, yeah.
And so for me, there's specific things of like, if you're non-monogamous,
oh yeah,
right, or you're just looking for something casual, I don't even want to see you. Don't waste my time.
Yeah.
Or if like we're not going to remotely align, you know, in terms of big worldviews, why waste my time even seeing you?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it was lifestyle things like that I remember. Oh, smoking was a big one for me.
Yep.
Yeah, the ability to just filter out people who said that they smoked. It's just not a thing for me. No disrespect for people who like that, but it allows you to find people you might find yourself more compatible with or not, lifestyle-wise.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's a cost. There is a financial cost if you want access to these features.
Yeah. And I think that's really the key financial cost is just the actual paying for the app. The big cost to me is time and energy.
Oh, yeah.
Whew. So, like I said, I just got on the app. I dabbled earlier this year. I would like download it and I'd like swipe a little bit and then get matches and people would say like, hi. Fuck out of here.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to like get to know someone when that's the conversation? It's like these, you know, this really dry. And it just got so overwhelming to me because the time and the energy that it takes to like weed through people, converse, feel out if you even want to meet up or if there's actually something there. It is a lot. Like it is a big dedication of resources to being on apps.
Something I heard that I think some apps do now that I wish they had when I was using apps was either putting a video in your profile of you talking, or can you video message someone or voice memo someone? Because that gives you a little bit more than just hi, right? It makes them have to introduce themselves and you can hear how they speak.
So I would imagine that's the case. On this one, you can put videos in your profile and like audio like prompts.
People probably just put like little like...
People do the audio prompts.
Oh, they do?
It'll be like answer a question.
Oh, okay.
This one is not a free-form profile. It's all like question-based, which is good and bad. And they might have audio messages in the app. I can't remember. But I have found, and maybe this is just like my bias getting back in the game, that the effort in conversations has like significantly diminished over the years. Like the amount of times the opener is like, hi, or how are you? Which like, it's just, there's nowhere to go from that. Yeah. I'm good. My day is good. Versus like in the past where it might be, look at their profile, try to come up with something interesting to say or ask a question. I feel like it's gone downhill.
Well, I feel like it's very similar to kind of like the evolution of the internet, right? Like you have so much information. So that can be a good thing. There's so many options for you to choose from, like versus in the past where it's hard to meet people because for whatever reason.
Sure.
But when you have that much information and that much choices, you have so much more trash to sift through and have to find like a diamond in the rough.
Paralysis of choice, right? That's like a real psychological thing. They say like you can only really digest like 7 options to make a choice.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually significantly affected how people date.
Yeah.
And we used to talk about this, years ago, and I would imagine it's still true today, that people have so many options, and maybe it's specific to big cities or not, but they know they have options right at their fingertips, so people are that much more reluctant to like commit or even just like dial into one option.
Yeah.
And I think it's really affected like the culture of dating and love and all that, and probably to the detriment.
Yeah. I don't know. Is coffee meets bagel still a thing? I think
I have no idea.
If it is, this is going to just date me back to back in the day. It might be different now, but this is what it was when it first came out a long time ago. It was you signed up, made an account, and then every day they would like match you with a person like at, I don't know, it was like 12 noon, like lunchtime, you would get your match of the day. So it would limit it. But then you started just seeing the same faces because back then it was small.
Yeah.
So now I think something like that could work now that there's bigger pools if these algorithms have better ways of matching you based on compatibility. But the problem with that is sometimes when it comes to compatibility, like you said, like some people think they know what they want, but they don't know. A lot of people, we don't know what we want. Like we have a very limited view of what we think we're attracted to sometimes, when you might surprise yourself by finding attraction in something that you would have never found before.
And interacting with someone goes such a long way. So like, I completely agree. And I think meeting someone in person organically or through a friend where you get to experience their personality, their whole demeanor, the way they carry themselves, it's just so much more dynamic than what you can communicate in a profile. Not to mention the fact that you don't even know if you can really believe what's in the profile. And so that makes it really challenging to know how to choose.
Yeah.
How do you sift through these people? Is it purely off of like first blush attraction? Is it off of a shared interest that's indicated?
Yeah.
I have like my little techniques I'm developing,
Yeah.
but I have no idea if they're gonna work. We'll find out. But it's tough.
Yeah. I mean, like think about just how many pictures does it let you put now? Like, cause you have to curate the version of you that you want to put out to the world.
Right.
Before I would put like, all right, I got to make sure there's one picture of me like playing basketball, just so they know I play basketball. Cause some guys don't like that. Some guys don't like an athletic girl. And I'm like, I just need to let them know that I hoop. You know, like there's things like that.
The same way. I literally have a video.
Yeah. Like just know that that I do this. And if it turns you off,
so
then
funny
it does.
though, right? But like you have to really synthesize yourself down. But I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like it's the nature of making a profile is putting forward the version of yourself that you think people will like. And there's something like icky about that anyway.
Yeah.
Like the full version of me, not just the, highlights. But, that's kind of just the way it goes.
But, in that whole process too, and this is not just for dating apps, this is like social media in general. It's like you really get to know what goes through a person's mind, like the judgments that they make. And like, I think it's human nature. We all make judgments to a degree, but in terms of how much you let that control your worldview and your actions, that's a different thing. But like, I remember one of my friends before saw me like swiping, and her partner, he's not someone I'm friends with or anything. Like he has total different worldviews than I, but he was like, oh, let's swipe for you. And I was like, all right, go ahead. Like pick some people for me. Right. And so this profile came up. This is a story time.
It's story time.
There was a profile that came up where the guy in the picture clearly had a kid. And I think it might have even said it in the profile. And then so my friend's partner, he was like, nah, you don't want those problems. You don't want, and I was like, I had to stop him. I was like, what do you mean problems? Right. I was like, just because you wouldn't date someone with a kid, like you're projecting that onto me. Yeah. Right. And then he was just, he didn't understand it. But I was like trying to fight him on this. I was like, honestly, like I'm in a mixed family, right? Like I wouldn't exist if like, my mom was closed off to dating someone who already had kids and was already previously married. Like my mom was my dad's second wife because his first wife passed away.
Right.
So I was like, you don't know someone's story. And if you have that preference, that makes sense. I think when I was younger, I had that preference where I was like, I don't really want to like deal with like someone who has kids. I want to start a life fresh with someone. Yeah. That changed over the years. And so one thing is like, if you have that worldview and if you have that preference, cool. But if you are projecting that to other people based on like a very limited, it shows a lot about a person, like what they will judge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's really funny observing. I think I have a more critical view looking at it this time and seeing patterns. And obviously I'm only looking at profiles of men, or not obviously, but I am only looking at profiles of men. And there's a couple things I've noticed as like a pattern of seeing there are like a lot of men that are commenting that they want a feminine woman and like very, very clearly spelling that out. And I'm like, that's really interesting. And what does that mean? And for me, it is that's like a red flag for me specifically and what I'm interested in, because the calling out of that to me maybe speaks to like very traditional gender roles or something that like I'm not sure I would fit into that mold. Not that I'm not feminine in my own way.
Yeah.
But so there's things like that where, for better or for worse, people are communicating their preferences, and you have to kind of intuit what they mean by it and say like, not for me, or oh yeah, sure, I fit that mold.
Well, that's interesting, because I guarantee you that some people who say that and want that, their definitions probably differ, right? Some people probably actually mean that they want a super dainty woman who only wears heels, whatever, right? But there are probably a chunk of people who want that, but they're also cool with like, you know, someone who watches sports, or I don't even know how you define it. I'm just
exactly,
making it
that's
right.
the thing. It's
but
so interesting.
For you, it's interesting because it's the fact that they would say that in that way that puts you off from it.
Because I think, and this may be my own biases that I'm bringing to it, I feel like I've been aware of a lot of conversations around like feminine energy, masculine energy. This may be something we talk about on a future episode. And those kind of roles, right? And what is expected of a woman in a relationship. And I definitely don't conform to very traditional gender roles, and I wouldn't want to in a relationship. So that's why it's like, we probably don't align on this.
So this might be a future episode too, but this just made me think of, in line with the conversation about how you present yourself, I used to struggle. When I was on dating apps, I was working at Google and I was making like a lot of money, I would say, for my age range. Or I don't even know, you know, whatever. I was making six figures at a very early age. And I struggled on, sometimes I would have it in my profile like where I worked versus not have it in. Oftentimes it would always come up, like, what do you do for a living? And it would come up. Even if I tried to be vague with it, it'd be like, yeah, but where? What? You know, like people want to know that. And I felt like sometimes it hurt me because sometimes men didn't want to be with someone who might potentially be more successful, whatever that means, or like make more than them. Yeah. And obviously, to me, that was a red flag. But I didn't want that to be like a reason people filtered me out before getting to know me. That's why sometimes I was like, maybe I won't put it in there. And then I would have friends say like, no, like don't hide who you are. And, you know, and it was always this struggle, like what version of me do I put out? Because I'm not wearing a Google shirt every day. Like you wouldn't know that if you just saw me walking on the street.
I think I definitely experienced that. And whether it's like the intimidation factor or wanting and feeling like that man should be like the kind of sole provider or whatever, I felt that hurt me as well, being like a more, you know, kind of empowered, independent, I guess, woman. And I think I used to be more mindful of how I presented it. I think about it now still as well, but that view of like, I want them to get to know me before filtering that out, now I don't feel that way. I'm like, if this is something that they wouldn't be interested in, I don't want them to like the other things about me and then accept that. Yeah. Like, this is a critical part of my identity. And that's just kind of how my relationship with myself has changed, or my view of, you know, what that kind of attraction and dynamic should be. Yeah. But it's a challenge, right? It's such a weird thing to put yourself out there.
It's interesting because I don't think all these little details of how much time and energy it takes, not just to swipe and meet up with people for dates, but like the thinking that goes behind it, the frustration you feel if you didn't match with anyone today, or people ghost.
Yeah, ghosting. Oh my gosh. We have both experienced extreme ghosting. I mean, it's one thing to have a conversation with someone, and I feel like the ghosting etiquette has evolved so much over time to where it's, if you haven't met someone in person, you don't have an actual like real life relationship with them, it's a little bit more acceptable to like drop off.
Yeah, like you owe them nothing. Maybe
you owe them nothing.
Yeah, and it's easy to think like, oh, maybe they started talking to someone else at the same time. Maybe they don't check the app like as much as I do, whatever. There's different, you don't have that connection. You haven't built that, you don't know, you don't owe anyone anything.
You don't owe them anything. Yeah. It's a whole other story when you're actually dating someone and that goes down, which we've both
But what
experienced.
about if you talk on the app, let's say you haven't met yet, but you've been chatting on it for a week or two, that's time. So how about that ghost? If you get ghosted then, that's kind of messed up.
I have gotten ghosted then, and I have ghosted then, honestly.
Okay.
I have, and for me, it's been kind of what you alluded to, like, sometimes you just get overwhelmed. Like, you're in the moment, just like anything, right? Embarking on dating, especially if you haven't dated, in my experience, not having dated for years and years and years, and this being new, and it's like, oh my God, how do you even begin to find your person based on like an app, right? And so sometimes you might feel energized and be like, oh, this is exciting, this is cool, I'm gonna put some energy into it. And then that wears off and it's just overwhelming or frustrating or discouraging or whatever. So I have done that, and I've come back and been like, I've said that. I just got overwhelmed. I tuned out of this for a couple weeks. Sorry, And I am at a point now where I don't feel guilty about that. I think that's just kind of the way it goes, unfortunately. But I've been on the receiving end of it too, and it can be frustrating. Yeah. And it's also interesting how you can get caught up in early conversations with someone, and you have to remind yourself, like, you don't know this person. When you're just early chatting, you don't know them, you have an idea in your head of them. And I used to really want to converse with someone quite a bit before I met them in person. Now I'm recognizing like that might be detrimental because I can be too reliant on that made up picture. Yeah. And it's kind of like a poor investment, right? I'd rather feel it out just quickly, and then if we think there's potential, let's meet up. I say this now, this hasn't happened, but I think that's my theory right now.
But on the meetup, I remember, like, to me in the past, I would need to chat a little bit with someone before I agreed to meeting in person, because I felt like even though there was a little bit of a time suck texting and getting to know each other that way without actually being in the same room, I felt like there was a bigger time suck for me in going on the date. Yeah. Because of getting ready and then driving there and then, I don't know, maybe being stuck there because they won't stop talking. I don't know. And then so that felt like a bigger commitment. So whereas I know other people who are like, no, let me just feel the vibe now. I don't need to talk to you on an app. I don't even like texting. So like I can see both both approaches.
Yeah, I think my approach has changed slightly. If there's some kind of good signs, some green flags, I think they're, shared interest, or there's something about the way they communicate that, I appreciate. I think I'd be more inclined to like go get coffee, like what I consider to be like a small date. Yeah. Not like a, big experience. And I'm not sure that I want to spend days and days and days or weeks even like chatting. Because I think that can build like a false sense of intimacy with someone you don't actually know.
False? Is it false though?
Maybe. Some of it I think can be false because you just don't have enough context. Yeah. And so much of it is dependent on your imagination.
Is there still a stigma when it comes to dating apps? I think our early era in them, there was. Yeah. But nowadays, is there?
I didn't think so. But recently, I've met a couple of couples and asked how they met. And they were like kind of, and like afraid to say it, which surprised me. I thought at this point, it's so commonplace. Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah. No, I think most people that I know who have met on a dating app will say, and they'll feel embarrassed about it, and they'll make a joke about it. Yeah. But obviously they're happy because they found each other.
Yeah. Or they'll have like a fake story.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen people do that. Yeah. Do you know many what appear to be happy couples, successful dating app stories?
Many. I feel like I know more than I can think of in my head. But I do feel like a lot of people end up finding their partner on a dating app. And
That's encouraging.
Yeah. No, I think it actually happens. It's interesting to think at the reason of like why it's embarrassing for people. Like, because why would it be embarrassing?
I don't know.
Do people pair it with like, oh, desperation, so you had to go to an app? Like, I don't see that, but I can understand.
Yeah. I mean, I think for like older generations, I could understand telling your parents something different maybe if you just think they're not going to be comfortable with that. Or the stigma, I think certain apps have a stigma of being hookup apps.
Oh, right.
Versus dating.
Right.
And so I could understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's shifted quite a bit.
Yeah. Is there a safety concern? A cost?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is speaking as a woman. I don't know if men experience this as well. But yeah, you're talking to a stranger, which even just while you're still in the app can expose you to like harassment and stalking and who knows who's really behind the profile.
Yeah.
It can be really sketchy. And then certainly meeting up. I have had dates where like I felt unsafe. We started sharing our locations with each other.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you'll see memes of, I think I saw something recently on Twitter of like, girls be like, oh, in case I get murdered, this is where I'm going on a date. And you joke about it because that's the reality of dating.
Yeah, I always felt like, well, obviously, and this doesn't always happen, but I try to make the first meet always be like in a majorly public place, like where there's other people around. But even then, you do the first in the public place, but at what point does this person, do you trust them enough that you can go to somewhere more secluded?
Right. Yeah, or, if you go to a bar, like watch your drink, you just never know. It can be absolutely dangerous, and there's a lot that you have to consider before going this route.
Lots. So on costs, tell me about a catfish. We opened up the show saying
I've had several. So one was just like flat out the pictures on his profile were like many, many, many years old and the best picture ever possibly taken in his life. And he may have been a great person. Turns out the date was not successful for many other reasons. Mm-hmm. It was just not a vibe. But that doesn't set the tone well, right?
Yeah.
Like, it creates distrust immediately when you don't look remotely like your pictures. And then I've also had what we coined as a hatfish, where I was too inexperienced to know that it might be not a red flag, but it's just something to observe if every picture the man is wearing a hat. And it turned out that this man was like losing his hair, which I wouldn't have otherwise cared about. Like, he was a really good looking guy, but it was like the disconnect, right? Like, oh, it's unexpected.
Yeah.
And we continued, we didn't really date, but we like ended up becoming friends. But that disconnect is like, oh, it just creates a strange experience where like, just be transparent about it because you're going to get the letdown.
You mean like have some pictures without a hat?
Just have some without a hat so that you don't feel deceived by like what you're getting.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, but you can go the other way and say that, someone might feel judged on their own insecurity, obviously, right?
Of course, yeah.
And not given the opportunity to chat, get to know them, and then later on be like, oh, okay, that's not a big deal.
That's true. Yeah. It's very true.
It could go either way, but
it could go either way.
Yeah, but it is tough. It's like you never know. Like the information right in front of your face is literally
curated.
It's curated.
Yeah.
It's curated.
Yeah, and for me, it's more to reiterate, it's not that the issue of balding was an issue.
Yeah.
It was more just like, oh, how you presented yourself felt disingenuous.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's for a lot of people. But I do understand why. And I think that could be challenging, right? If you have an insecurity, how do you put yourself out there? Put yourself in the best light. I am like hyper sensitive to that for myself of like only posting recent pictures.
Yeah. I think I'm a catfish. I'm not on dating apps, but I think I'm a catfish right now. My profile picture on my Instagram is like now 4 years old.
I know, but you still look the same.
Nah, no.
No?
I gained a little bit of weight from my accident that happened. I guess it's still me. Is whatever.
I feel like you still look the same.
But it's just hilarious what you consider a catfish versus
Right.
not. I had okay, tell me if this is a catfish. Story time.
It's story time.
This is silly. So, okay, I'm 5'2". Let me just preface this by saying, and I might not even be 5'2". I think I'm like 5'1". All right.
Round up.
I round up because 5'2" just sounds better. So I was particular about like dating guys who were taller than me, but that was very easy to do. There was very, very few guys who were shorter than me, right? So whatever. I dated guys of all heights. There was a guy that I matched up with who, I guess he played basketball too. And I think his profile said he was like 6 feet or 5'11" or 6 feet or something like that. And I was like, okay, cool, right? Like he's taller than me. And back then I would say height was more of a thing. To me now, it's a little bit less. I still don't know what it would look like if I towered over someone because we'll get to height.
Yeah, we'll come back to height.
But
I got things to say.
In terms of this story, this was one of those situations where the first date wasn't really like a date. It was like we were chatting and I was all right, like I gotta go, like I'm meeting up with my friends to go play basketball. And then he lived very close to where we were playing basketball. And so, I don't know, this was risky me back then. I was like, oh, I'll pick you up. Mm-hmm. Not something I would ever do in more modern days now that I know about more murderers and stuff. But like I went to go pick him up. It was daytime anyway. Yeah. So I went to go pick him up and like, you know, he like opened the door, got in the car. And this was the first time we were meeting. Whatever, he was nice. We got to where the gym was. Like I parked in the parking lot and like he got out of the car. I got out of the car and like we were like the same height almost. Okay, he was probably a little taller than me. He lied about his height by like 6-7 inches.
That's egregious.
Again, it wasn't the height itself. It was the lie. It was like the deceit.
It's the lie.
It was like, well, why would you even put that on your profile?
Exactly.
Because do you think anyone's going to like meet up with you?
You're not fooling anyone.
Yeah, you're not going to fool anyone.
Right. And you just wasted my time because of the lie.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. I think he was decent at basketball because that's where we ended up going. But it like in my head, I was like, oh man, this might be we might be picking up a new forward in my basketball team, right? Like I was like thinking like that, and it's like, no, we're not. Like,
nope, no,
we already have enough point guards. Like we're fine. Like,
gosh,
so anyway, height is an interesting one.
That's
like,
a catfish for sure.
For lying.
Yeah. You're representing yourself differently. Yeah,
okay, but I lie about an inch or so.
That's rounding. Rounding is not lying. Every guy that's 6 foot, I feel like on dating apps is actually 5'11". I think that's just an understanding.
Okay, so if you're
round up.
rounding up an inch and a half, that's fine.
Inch and a half is pushing it. That's like your NBA height, Lisa. What you're listed at.
You know, at the end of the day, well, this is supposedly at the end of the day, you're shorter than when you started the day because.
So when are you measuring yourself?
I don't do this, but this is what I think I read this a long time ago because like your vertebrae, you compress a little bit. So I would say by the end of the day, I might be 5 feet and 3/4. At the beginning of the day, I might be closer to 5'2". Either way, we're talking about an inch and a half. I think that's acceptable.
Significant.
No, because someone who's 5'10" and a half says they're 6. Okay.
That's bull.
Okay, fine.
Okay,
fine.
I am 5'10". I don't say I'm 6 foot.
But did you ever round down? Because you're a girl?
I'm 5'10" in shoes.
Okay.
So I actually very inconsistent because I was 5'9" for like most of my life, and then I grew in my late 20s.
What? You can grow in your late 20s?
Apparently, yeah. I grew.
How come it didn't happen to me?
Just like a little bit. And like my feet grew. Yeah, it was annoying. It was like I can't wear any of my old shoes, which is many pairs, you know? So I often say 5'10", but if we're being like on medical stuff, I'll say 5'9" because I'm not in shoes, I guess. Okay. I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm like kind of in between.
But let's talk about why is it such a thing? Why is height such a thing in general, and especially like for men? I think men lie about height more.
Yeah, I don't
have a stat
I don't know
for that.
that women lie about. I've never heard of women lying about height, except for rounding. But
okay.
Yeah. So I think, it just goes back to like what is considered attractive, our human nature, and I think like for men, from an evolutionary standpoint, like physical stature implies protection and dominance and like all of those very primal things. And there's like weird statistics on this of like the financial success of taller men. Like it is a really big thing that's valued in society, even subconsciously. People perceive tall men to be more successful. And like I very much empathize with men that you can't change that about yourself, right? That's
apparently
hard.
now you can like add inches to your knees. I don't know.
Wow, you're so long ass knee.
I don't know. I thought I read something about like,
oh gosh,
they stretch you. I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, generally, it's not a thing you can change.
Yeah, fairly fixed. So I get it, and like kind of to your point, in a bar or in like a social environment, right? If you met someone and you might find them attractive or they're funny or whatever, something that draws them to you, that's different than being able to like handpick and curate and literally filter for this, pool of people. And so I understand men being like, I'm awesome, I'm great, I'm attractive, I have all these other things to offer, but I'm like an inch too short. That's stupid.
Yeah.
And I think it's become like a big thing for women to want someone over 6 feet.
Or just over, like, I only want guys this height and above.
Yeah, but I do think like the 6 feet marker is a big thing, which is why so many men who are like 5'10", 5'11", say they're 6 feet.
Yeah.
It's
which is funny because like people my height is like,
you're looking up anyway.
Yeah, you're looking up. You're looking up.
Well, and that's been so interesting as like a tall woman. I've dated men all different height. I mean, really, like since I was a teenager, I've dated a couple guys who are like just a little bit shorter than me. I prefer a taller person, but it's like not the end of the world. And so it's so interesting and like kind of weird for like short women to like, oh, I need someone that's over 6 feet. Like, bitch, save that for us. We're tall.
I know.
It's annoying. But it's a big thing. And I think that's like one of the probably biggest things people filter for.
Yeah. But going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, just like the filters in general of like thinking you know what you want. And maybe you do. Maybe you have a good grasp of what you're attracted to physically, sexually, whatever.
Sure.
But then sometimes you don't, and you just have this picture in your head that you've created, right? And it's like, yeah, what if the dopest human being you've ever met is an inch underneath your whatever filter you put on your profile?
Girl, it's something, being very, very transparent, it's something I am grappling with now of like, historically, I've chosen people who aren't good for me. So let me reevaluate what I'm attracted to. And I literally had this thought like the other day, like, how much does physical attraction matter? Like there's people who I look at their profile and I'm like, you seem amazing, and I'm just not physically attracted to you. But what do I do with that?
Man,
am I not giving them a chance?
We got to get you on Love is Blind. It's the show where like...
But does that mean that physical attraction doesn't matter at all?
No, it does matter.
Right?
They end up picking up a lot of... The show is really like a bunch of good-looking people anyway, for the most part. But the element of getting to know someone...
increases your attraction to their appearance.
Before you get their appearance. So their appearance gets this boost regardless.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that. And there's also things like intangibles, like charisma, right? Mm-hmm. Like someone who just in a static photo... it, may not do it for you, but like the way they carry themselves, speak, etc. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah,
right. Challenges. Okay, we talked about a lot of the costs. Obviously you didn't meet Alan on a dating app.
I did not.
But did you have any successes? What you would consider to be successes?
Yeah, I had a couple long-term relationships from dating apps.
Okay.
Good dudes. Not cheaters. Like it ended up just not working out for, compatibility or like, as you grow older, you guys change, like things like that.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of those. And I will say that dating apps were great for like, especially when you're busy. So like we said, it could be a time suck, but it also can save you a lot of time, because rather than having to go out every night of the week and spend money to go to networking events or to bars
where there may be no one.
Yeah, you can pay that one monthly fee or do the free version and swipe from the comfort of your home.
That's actually a really good point, because like, you know, now that I'm single and I'm like aware of dating, right? Like if I'm out, I'll scout, you know, look around and be like, all right, is there anyone eligible here and I'd be interested in?
Numbers,
More
right?
often than not, there's nobody.
Yeah.
I'll be out and about and there's no prospects, right? So
man, I was thinking of you. There was a cute guy. Am I allowed to say that? Because I'm about to get married. Okay, there was a cute guy. I can look at guys. There was a cute guy yesterday at the sandwich shop that I was like, oh, one of my friends would like this guy. I was like, yeah, you were... One of the other homies would,
put me on.
Yeah, maybe I'll just keep going back to the sandwich shop to find him for you. But yeah, like, so it's just numbers. It's a numbers game. So that's why I think there is benefit to, you save some time, you can save some money by not going out as much and being on your phone.
Right. And if you do have very specific lifestyle things, you can, you know, weed out some of that, ideally.
But it's all a balance, right? Because like, if you're just like, I will never be with someone who, whatever, like insert this, and then you end up like loving everything about a person and that doesn't matter to you anymore. You can't really get that if you filtered them out already.
Isn't it so funny? I think about, like, if you think about people that you maybe have dated that you met in real life, like, would you have swiped for them if you saw a profile?
I would have.
I think I would have for all of like my boyfriends.
Yeah. I would have definitely swiped on Alan because he's so good looking and a good person. But I had this thing for the longest time that I always wanted a guy who played basketball. Alan does not. He's from the UK. He grew up playing soccer, or football is what he would get mad at me for saying soccer. And now I love watching soccer. Like, I watch it with him. I'm an Arsenal fan now, and I love it. He watches NBA. Like, he went to a game last year, even without me. But he doesn't play. Like, he could actually shoot now. Like,
I saw him the other day.
But like in my mind in the past, I was like, no, it's such a big lifestyle thing for me. I play multiple times a week. I would like someone I could go do that with. We got together under different circumstances through a friend, and it does not matter to me. I do not care. He should. If he listens to this, you don't have to learn how to play basketball, okay? Just keep playing soccer.
We love you the way you are,
Alan. I'll join a soccer league with you maybe. I don't know. Like, you know, like it. So like there's things like that like I would have never done. So yeah, I think I probably blocked myself in many ways on apps before.
From great people, I definitely did that. I was like, I think there's a balance between being... I was picky about the wrong things, right? It's hard. I go back and forth now of like, keep an open mind. But then also I have my friends being like, you're amazing. Like, you don't want just like some random ass dude, right? It's hard. Like, what are the things you want to be picky about? And I think I'm getting better at like it just being the more foundational, I guess, lifestyle, like worldview. I actually saw something recently that was like, you want to align in terms of your values, your lifestyle, your long-term goals, and attraction. Those were like the 4 kind of pillars. And I was like, oh, that's helpful.
Yeah.
A good way to look at it. I have not had any like major dating successes. I had, a couple people I would date for like, a couple months maybe. Like nothing really materialized. And a lot of those were like more dramatic, messy situationship kind of things. I think that's kind of what I associate with it.
I have a couple friends.
Yeah.
That we tried to date, and then we end up becoming friends, and we're still friends.
So that's what I have. Yeah. I have friends, a few that we tried to date and became friends, but many that we never really ended up dating.
You're just like, oh, we're into the same stuff.
We just became friends. And including one of my very best friends, friend of the pod, Jamie, we met in just funny circumstances. We were on a trip to New Orleans. I was swiping, I saw him, and I was like, oh, look at this guy. And I saw that he knew one of our very good friends, Drew. And Drew was like, oh, yeah, that's my boy. And we, ended up hanging out, and we've been friends for years and years. So those have been my successes in terms of friendship. Yeah. Dating, not so much.
Yeah. One more thing on the energy, because it could be a energy suck, right? You get ghosted, you feel away, you spend time swiping, don't find anything. Like, it could be an energy suck, but I also think it can be an energy saver because you are in control of when you're on and off, right?
True.
Like, if you go this whole week, you're like, I don't have the capacity to think about, dating or anything like that. Stash that app away, don't use it. But like, okay, I'm sitting down on the couch this weekend for an hour. I got time. I can dedicate my energy to that. So there's that.
That's a really good point. That's a good reframe.
Good
I like
reframe.
that.
Yeah.
Good reframe.
Anyway, yeah. All right, 20 cents.
20 cents.
20 cents is the segment of the show where both Lizzy and myself, Lissa, each get 60 seconds to give our 2 cents on today's topic, whether we think it is a net positive or a net negative. Today, we're talking about dating apps. Where does 20 cents come from?
Well, you get the opinion of 2 dimes.
Two dimes. All right, Liz, you're up first. Are dating apps worth it?
God, this is a tough one for me. In the past, I would have said no. I definitely did it and tried it for years on and off. And I don't feel like it was really, the output was really, juice was worth the squeeze. Now, as I mentioned, I'm trying it out again. It kind of remains to be seen. But I think it's worth a try. I'll say that. I don't know if it's actually, worth it in the end of the day, but I'm going to give it a good old try and see how it works. I don't have to commit to it long term. And it just is helpful to kind of like expedite the process. So for now, I guess I'm a net positive.
All right, current day, net positive.
Lissa, this is a weird one for you to answer, but.
Yeah, well, I can answer it. Well, obviously, because I'm getting married, I already have a partner. For like right now, I'm not using them and don't ever plan to. Hopefully we're together forever. Yeah. But I can speak on in the past. In the past, I think it was a net negative for me because I did find it convenient, but I think who I was at that time, dating apps weren't good for me. It's like the things I cared about, the things I was looking for, the amount of emotion I put into it, like getting ghosted would hurt my feelings, right? Like I was a different person back then where it wasn't conducive to my, I guess, emotional health.
Yeah.
Even, financial costs, didn't really care. I was happy to pay for it. But even back then, like looking back at that moment in time, I think it was a negative. Yeah, so.
That resonates, yeah. That's a maturity, girl.
Yeah.
Some growth there.
Net
I like that.
Net negative.
Net negative.
Ooh.
All right.
Well, remember, this is what we think right now at this moment in time. Liz might not like them in a month from now.
Man, in a week, tomorrow.
She might be net
I might
negative.
delete this. It's not worth it.
She might be net negative tomorrow. Who knows? But only you can make that decision. What is best for you? Are dating apps worth it?
Hit us up. Let us know what you think. DM us on Instagram at netnetpodcast or email us at hi@netnetpodcast.com. And if you want to follow us individually, here's where you can find us.
I'm at Wealth for Women of Color on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram.
And you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at live_well_Lizzy.
All references, statistics, and resources mentioned can be found in our show notes. This podcast is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be constituted as financial advice. Remember to always do your own research, consult a professional as needed, and feel